Hey, this is Nica Montford, aka Tech Savvy Diva,
Yo, this is Terrance Gaines, aka Brother Tech.
and you're listening and or watching the Snob West Show, the show for Apple snobs where we talk all things Apple and then some. Welcome back to another week of the Snob West Show. Thank you for joining us, and we are going to go ahead and jump into the show this week. We're going to start with our first segment, The Lowdown, where we talk all things Apple. First up on the docket is iOS 15 beta. It is out, and Safari is getting yet again another redesign. The original design got some bad reviews in the last beta, so they decide to, you know what, let's go and put the address bar back on top where people expected. And it looks like it gives you the option if you want to put the tab bar at the bottom or have the single tab at top. So it's kind of like a cross between both. As the user, you can decide where you want the address bar to be. But it was a bit of a ruckus when the last beta came out and the Safari was redesigned. People were not happy, and they of course went on over to the internets to let everyone know exactly how unhappy they were with the change in Safari. So during that time, Apple reversed some of those changes.
Now, I know, so it's a good thing, or feedback is a good thing, and it can be a bad thing. It can be a good thing because, the whole point, I don't know if the whole point of the beta is to get feedback. I think the point of a beta is to find bugs, fix features that are broken, right?
And allow people
But
to make sure that their apps work with the new
right,
version.
right. Make sure everything works to where if you get a phone, you're not going to be, you don't have obstacles that you wouldn't normally have with a finished product, right?
Right.
That could be a good thing. The bad thing is change, right? Because it sounds like the way people complained about this search bar being at the bottom was this is a bug, not a feature, right? When Apple was trying to modernize whatever they called it, change is the what it ended up being a change. We're used to seeing
A
this at
redesign.
the top, right?
Yeah.
We're used to seeing it at the top. Now it's at the bottom, and obviously nobody likes change, but at the same time, change is good. So where is the line when it comes to change? Is it deal with it until you grow accustomed to it, or the second we realize we don't people don't like anything, we're going to change it?
So,
It's like
yeah.
how do you get innovative, and how do you introduce new things without upsetting anybody, without, you gotta,
And having to go
you
back
know
and rework because they probably checked this off their task board as done. So now they have
right,
to go back, put resources on it, take resources off what they had planned for someone else to do. Now they got to go back and redo this. And it's a really slippery, slope because was it really that many people complaining, or were the ones complaining very loud? That's one.
right,
Two,
right,
as you
right.
mentioned, change is inevitable, and some people just don't like it, especially in the snob, the Apple snob community. They do not like change so much. But if you think about the whole kind of dust up with Twitter, with the way they changed the colors and the follow or
hmm
following button, people are
hmm
on Twitter for days talking about, I still can't figure it out. I don't understand it. But did Twitter change it? Nope. They're like, you're going to learn how to rock with these new changes, or you're just not
right,
going to not use the app. And we know people are
yeah,
not going to not use the app because
right.
Twitter is Twitter.
But at the same time, you do want to listen to feedback, and you do want to take that feedback and, create the best product as possible. Again, is this Apple taking feedback and deciding to, adjust their change, or adjust their design? or is this just people complaining for the sole sake of complaining without really integrating the new change into
Or giving
their,
it a
daily
chance.
use? Right, giving it a chance. Right. What is
Yeah.
this?
Yeah. Yeah. So it seems as if it doesn't really matter because they've gone back
Right.
to the previous design, and it gives people the option to try the old new design
Hmm.
if they want. So maybe they'll bring it back in a different release, I guess, to give people time to get accustomed to the change. But
Right.
yeah, it's interesting to see how an address bar location can cause Apple to have to
Kick
use
up all this dust.
all this dust and use a lot of
Hmm.
resources that they probably had already allocated to another project to have to go back and say, you know what, let's go back and undo what we did so that people won't be mad at us.
But I
So
guess better do this in a beta versus in a release where you got to issue a new update, you know. So,
yeah, definitely. All right. Next up, we talked a little bit about this on the pre-show as it relates to the news that the Taliban has now regained control of Afghanistan. But I found this article and I thought it was very interesting how the cross section of technology and politics really cross over lines, how technology really is embedded into the fiber of our society now. So it looks like Face ID, which is, of course,
hmm.
on the iPhone, it could now be used to help protect some of our Afghan allies and folks against some facial recognition tech that the U.S. has, but now the Taliban also has. So I thought this was very interesting. It's not a super long story, but it's a lot of information included. So I definitely suggest everybody take a second to read about it because I think we're all pretty much aware and it's kind of on the minds of everyone now. What's going on in Afghanistan? What's going to happen to the people in that country who stay and can't leave, and also for the people who will become refugees that come into not only our country but in countries around the world where they resettle. But one of the things is the face recognition and fingerprint devices, and also the databases that are related to that technology have been seized, for lack of a better word, by the Taliban. So it's one of those things where when you're in the middle of essentially a coup, I don't know if you could call it a coup because it's something I guess that the United States was handing back to the Afghani people, but
Hmm.
in the abrupt nature of the United States withdrawing its forces from the country, there were some things that were left behind. And unfortunately, those things have gone into the hands of folks who have been proven to not be very nice people and who violate human rights, at every turn if you aren't considered quote unquote one of them. So reading this article from 9 to 5 Mac, it pulls information from a couple of different sources. Again, I said you can read the article in a little more detail to get a little bit more context because I do not proclaim to be an expert on any of this, but just based on the information that I am seeing, it looks like of course they've collected this biometric data. So ultimately, these devices, known as HIDE, handheld interagency identity detection equipment. Whew, that's a mouthful. They were seized, and again in cooperation with the United States. So all this information is now in the hands of the Taliban. But
Well,
what human
make sure make sure this is explained right. Um, the U.S. military. was in a hurry to leave Afghanistan that they left all this equipment laying around, and the Taliban said, "Oh, thank you." So they have seized this all this stuff and
Equipment and
basically
database. Yeah.
right, which is weird. You would think, again, I'm not a military expert, but that would be the first equipment that would have been on the planes, or the stuff that would have been top secret,
Packed
top
first.
level, top
Yeah.
priority to go. It's almost like gifting the Taliban all this additional equipment, specifically face detection information that they can then use. Not to say that they're going to, but it's a possibility that the Taliban could use this information that was left by the United States military to do identify specifically people who assisted the United States, whether it be interpreters, whether it be other, civilian military over there who, the U.S. trained, whether it could be political people who spoke out against news reporters that spoke out against the Taliban. So all of this information that the United States has been collecting was left. So now, again, like I said, the story is trying to show people, okay, here's how you can do to protect yourselves.
Right. So it's really, again, as Terrance mentioned, it's I don't unfortunate seems to be a word not strong enough. Honestly, it feels a little bit, what's the word? Negligence, is that the word I'm looking for? That this is even the case. And Human Rights First says, I'll read the quote that they have. It says it's talking about the tech that includes, of course, the facial recognition. They're saying, we understand the Taliban is now likely to have access to various biometric databases and equipment in Afghanistan, including some left behind by coalition military forces. This technology is likely to include access to a database with fingerprints and iris scans, so your eye scans, and include facial recognition technology. Overall, it's very difficult to avoid recognition based on biometric data, but there are some things you can do and some things you shouldn't, and some you shouldn't. So it's basically saying that this is
Here's how you trick the system.
yep, and how you really just gave some really dangerous people even more ammunition to cause harm to innocent people who were in essence trying to make their country safer and better for themselves to live in. So that being said, of course, the concerns are most definitely out there. As we mentioned earlier in the pre-show, how much can you really trust what the Taliban as the new leadership, what they're going to do? Now it's all, we're not going to do A, B, C, and D. We're not going to find people or try and hurt them or harm them. But at the same time, you have all this data and all this technology to do so. So it's just another thing that has, come out of this, this whole situation. Seems to be a not, I guess, all-encompassing term, but in the state of where we are internationally, on the United States side, and of course the innocent citizens of the country of Afghanistan.
Right.
So it'll be interesting to see if this will be addressed by, I guess, any U.S. official, or if there are going to be some new protocols put in place that, hey, if we're trying to get out of somewhere quick, we want to make sure we get the data and the devices.
When you watch movies, again, I'm not a military expert. When you watch movies and people are trying to get out of a place, what do? They shred papers, they pour gasoline on computers, and they light them on fire. Why couldn't the United
They
States
just light it
torch,
up. Yeah.
torch everything on the way out? It's just, it seems weird that they just left this stuff, and I think that's what this all boils down to. You would think that they wouldn't give stuff to the Taliban. We understand them taking over We understand them trying to reclaim their land back, but on top of that, you giving them gifts too? Is that what
Yeah.
we doing over
Yeah.
there?
And especially gifts that have actual acronyms for what they are. You know, the government loves
Hmm.
acronyms. So you would think that this would be something that they would protect and make sure that they either destroyed or took with them. So more to come to see if the government or the military says anything relating to this, because I saw this on 9 to 5 Mac, but I also saw it on multiple other tech sites as well. So it's out in the tech atmosphere. So it's only a matter of time before it likely makes it quote unquote mainstream. And by mainstream, I'm meaning your news shows, your pundits, starting to talk about it. So it'll be, I don't want to say interesting, but it will be interesting to see if there are any additional changes, which we may never know about, to come into play to combat this type of activity, because again, this data is extremely sensitive. And just imagine if you want to equate it, if you think about some of the KKK or some of these white supremacy groups getting biometric access to information on people that are quote unquote against them, what could be done with that? Again, I don't think most of those folks have the IQ to be able to do something with this, but folks like in organizations like the Taliban definitely have people on payroll that could know how to get the biggest benefit out of this type of information. So all this to say is it's very disheartening to see that this is not good. So
Right.
all right. And again, I definitely encourage you to read the article and get your additional understanding about this. Again, Terrance and I aren't military experts, but it seems to be that there are a lot of things to play as it relates to what was left behind and seized by the Taliban. All right. Moving right along. Apple and SharePlay. So it sounds like SharePlay will not be included initially in the upcoming iOS 15 release. If you'll remember back in the last Apple event, they talked about SharePlay. And I'm trying to remember, I do believe this was one of the things when we did the recap that I said that I was interested about, meaning if I'm watching something on my phone, I can share it with Terrance and we can watch together on our own devices. So if you say, ooh, this is a funny video I saw, blah, 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 share, play it to your friend or whoever, y'all can watch it together and enjoy the laughs or whatever it is that you are watching. But it looks like this will not be included in the release that we're coming for iOS 15, iPadOS 15, tvOS 15, or on Monterey.
Well, so the story is not misleading, but they are led to believe it won't be included in iOS 15 at launch because the feature was disabled in the beta versions. Apple hasn't came out and said we're not going to include this in the launch of iOS 15. If you even think back to the actual time that Apple released it, all they said was an upcoming iOS 15 feature. They didn't say
When?
upcoming iOS 15 feature at launch, right? So, the 9 to 5 Mac people where Nica's reading this from, they are making the
Making an
assumption
assumption.
that it won't be included in iOS 15 at launch because they disabled it in the beta versions of whatever all the different iOSs or Mac OSs or tvOSs leading up to it. So again, Apple never promised that, so it could be iOS 15.2 dot whatever the case may be. It still may get there. It just may not, according to this story, be there on, September, whenever they launch iOS 15.
Right, because looking at the article, it says Apple says that SharePlay has been disabled in the developer beta. And it being disabled in a beta, as Terrance mentioned, is not indicative that it won't be ready at launch. Again, maybe they're doing some tweaks to it. Maybe they think the tweaks will be there. Maybe they won't. But they aren't promising, as Apple really doesn't necessarily promise anything that you'll see or when you'll see it. They say, oh, we got this cool thing coming.
Right,
yeah.
Right.
We got this cool thing coming and it's coming soon, but they don't tell you when. But it's kind of like when your appetite, like, oh, this is coming, this is cool. And people automatically expect, because this was announced at the previous announcement event, that it was a go at the beginning. So we'll see, what happens. And again, a lot of times this is, launch prep to see, are we there? Do we think we'll be there? Or no, we won't be there. And it's usually kind of like I said, a game time kind of launch decision to see where they are with whatever the changes they're making or whatever they're adding or whatever they're doing, to even see if it will be ready. So we'll see if it does come out on the initial release or if it's something that will be down the line. Again, we'll just have to wait and see, because Apple has not given us their roadmap of when these things will be fully delivered. All right. The next thing for Apple, both Terrance and I have Apple Watches and we really enjoy them, but it looks like a patent that Apple has it indicates that you may be able to measure your hydration with the Apple Watch. It doesn't say, again, like we just said in the last story, Apple doesn't give us our roadmap, so we don't know if it's going to be ready for Watch Series 7 or if it's something down the line. But Apple is working on, it appears to be including the feature to be able to measure your hydration level, whether you are too dehydrated or you're good to go. So the patent was published today. The information about the patent was published today, Wednesday, regarding this hydration measurement with the Apple Watch. And I'm not going to read what the abstract says, but it essentially says that this patent will give you the ability on your wearable device to track your hydration levels. Assuming similar to how you can do your heartbeat, how you can do your breathing, all those type of things. But essentially, it's going to take your perspiration levels and determine whether you are hydrated enough or what your current levels of hydration are. So it just seems as if another way for the wearable market to be further used to in your everyday life to measure and get metrics on your overall health. Any thoughts? So you're interested in it?
No, it'll definitely be useful. I don't drink water that much, so just another thing. And my watch will be screaming at me about wash your hands, drink water. So just another thing for the bug me.
Take a breath. Again, check your heart rate.
Right. Another thing.
Did you fall?
Got another wife telling me what to do.
Drink your water.
Right.
Right. So I think that's cool. Again, we've seen how some of the other health metrics have helped folks in the past. So it looks like this is another one to keep an eye out for, whether it be in the near future or a little bit down the road. All right. I believe that is it for the lowdown, unless there's anything else you want to talk about. Okay, go for it.
This is dumb. So it looks like there was some sort of community insider, Apple community insider, that was leaking information to the public. You know, when we get all these rumor mills, we get all this supply chain information. One member of this leaked community is deciding to speak out against Apple because not only was he a community insider who was leaking information, according to him, he was also a double agent actually working for Apple to help them identify people who were leaking information. He's sharing
So he
his
was a
story.
narc, basically.
Yes. So in addition to that, he was he's sharing his story because according to him, stupid. According to him, he believes he was taken advantage of having never received compensation and having never worked for Apple. So he's sharing his story because according to him,
He didn't get
Apple
paid.
he didn't get paid because he was leaking information. So I just wanted to share that story that the nerve of this guy.
The
Uh,
nerve. So it's
right,
like
right,
you didn't get paid because you were still leaking. So we figured, we kind of cancel each other out. So we didn't have to pay you because you're getting all this clout or press or money for leaking stuff. But you're also
right. So
reporting back to us the other people who are leaking.
right.
That's
So I don't know how. Sound like he got played. It says, but
sounds
rightfully
like
so,
it.
because if I mean you've seen this in movies before, people being double agents and
Uh-huh.
they work for
Corporate espionage
somebody.
is a real thing.
Right, right, right. But you know, the company knows who you are, but they
Mm-hmm.
lead you out here to, all right, well, you're gonna play us, we're gonna play you back, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that whole circle, right? But according to this guy, his name is Andre Shimeko. Probably butchering his name, but he says he established a relationship with Apple's anti-leak team, officially called Global Security, after he alerted them of a potential phishing campaign against some Apple Store employees back in 2017. Then in mid 2020, he tried to help Apple investigate one of its worst leaks in recent memory and became a quote unquote mole, as he put it. So just reading that, it leads me to believe that he thought he was working in conjunction with Apple to do all of this leaking information and he teamed up with Apple to do all this stuff when Apple was like, bro, it wasn't like that. We wasn't into you like that. We wasn't checking for you like that. You thought you was giving us these little nuggets of information, but we all knew all along. Not only was your information not really that helpful, you got the nerve to then leak information from Apple to the public and think you're gonna get paid? No.
But the fact that he felt that he should come out and say something, that's the bold part. It's like you telling yourself, bro.
Right. So he said, and he goes on in the story to say, Shamiko said he was hoping that by helping Apple, the company would help him in return. Again, hoping. If I have a contract with you, I'm not hoping you're gonna
I'm not
pay me.
hoping nothing.
You're
That's
going to
already
pay me
established.
for my services. There's no hoping, right? So he says,
Right.
in hoping that by helping Apple, the company would help him in return, but that he said never happened, and he's now questioning whether he should have helped Apple in the first place. It's like the nerve of this dude who was leaking information about Apple, thought that he could get some cool points by tipping Apple off, and then assumed that he was going to get looked out. And when it didn't happen, got upset. But again, the audacity of people these days never cease to amaze me. So that was my story I wanted to share. I just read that real quick. I thought that was interesting.
Very much so. All right, let's head on over to Second String where we talk all other tech. I saw this next article and I was like, okay, this is helpful as a person who uses Pinterest. So Pinterest is adding a new search filter for different hair textures. I thought this was really cool because I get tired of going on to Pinterest and having to add black girl to whatever my search is just
For black women.
to just so that I can get the information that I'm
Mhm.
looking for, especially when it comes to makeup, hair, styling. I want to see things in my shade and in my hair texture. But what they're doing is this new search tool is going to help people without them having to put quote unquote black girl or natural hair at the end. They are including when people search for hairstyles, there's going to be a new filter option, and it'll have curly, coily, wavy, and straight textures, as well as shaved, protective styling, or bald head will automatically appear in that search bar. If you use Pinterest, you know it's a bit intuitive that when you start typing something, it'll try and fill in the blanks for you. So this is another way that that Pinterest is trying to cater to their users who are Black people and other people of color when it comes to what they're searching for on the platform. So Pinterest says that they created this with Black, Brown, and Latinx people in mind. And I agree with the quote that says, just a simple idea that I don't have to work twice as hard to find hairstyle because my hair type is a game changer. That was a quote from Naima LaFond, who is an editorial hairstylist and global artistic director for a Nica hair care brand. Who, that's a long title. But yeah, so I think for me, like I said, I get tired of having to type black girl or natural hair when I'm looking for something specifically related to me as a Black woman on Pinterest. And Pinterest is also saying that this is building upon their already existing feature that they came out with in 2018, where skin tone search filters. Now, again, I still have to put black girl on my searches, so the skin tone thing, I don't know.
I'm assuming the technology is getting there. I'm pretty sure it's not foolproof, but this could be a positive for Pinterest because it gives them the ability to flex their muscle when it comes to the technology that they themselves are building by saying, look, we've got this advanced search technology that will help people no matter who they look like. I don't know of too many people. Well, I mean, I know people, but there aren't too many people out there going to be like, this is a terrible idea. No. As opposed to all the people are going to say, oh, thank you. Like you already said, yep. I've been looking for this. This is something I struggle with. This is an obstacle I've been trying to get over. Now with the addition to this, that helps these X many people versus somebody saying, and they're out there, well, why don't we have, to use this, comparison.
I know where you're going. Yep.
Why don't we have white entertainment television? Well,
because you're the default.
Right, because everything is already built for you. So to be able to then have to go in and add these additions, these new things, that is being inclusive of your customer base, and
it's lessening the black tax. As the hairstylist, the quote that I read earlier, it takes twice as long for me to find what I'm looking for because I have to be super specific to find it. Like the new hair color I found it on Twitter, on Pinterest, but I had to specify the color of hair I wanted and the type of person that I was looking for that already had it. So when I go to show my hairstylist, hey, I want this color, seeing this color on a white face and seeing this color on a black face would be completely different. So
right. It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense that, minorities, people with different skin tones, people with different hair textures, just different people have to default to this one thing, and then we have to use our imaginations to try to figure out how to adapt it to us. Yeah. It shouldn't have to be like that because that's not how the world is. Right. So it is nice to see that technology can catch up with how the world is. So,
right. And it looks like it makes sense. And it looks like the base that the Pinterest engineers use to make these filters, it started from a ModiFace AI library. I have not heard of that. So I'm assuming it's a library that has, different skin tones based on melanin to make it easier. And it says that they basically adjusted the algorithm so that it can categorize skin and skin tones in low light. So that helps to make it easier for people to be able to detect what the different range of skin tones. I mean, if you look at any black person or any black family, you can look in one black family and you can have the lightest of the light to the darkest of the dark in one family because genetics and,
Mm-hmm.
we're mixed in with a bunch of stuff. So, it all depends on, in the genetic lottery when you get assigned it at birth, what you will come out looking as. So it runs the gamut. So I give Pinterest a little bit of applause there, not too much, because they still have some things outstanding where they with black women, but who were employees. But this is definitely a step in the right direction to make sure that their platform is accessible and easily used by all of their users, not just a specific group. So that was a little bit personal to me, so I was like, that's pretty dope. So that's that. All right. This next story. Data breach after data breach after data breach. This time, the data breach is courtesy of T-Mobile. About 47 million total users were affected. About 7.8 were for postpaid accounts, and about 40 million of current and potential customers had their data compromised. And, it's one thing for people, they get a data breach, but everything was anonymized, encrypted. No one could tell what the data is. Unfortunately, for T-Mobile, some of the data that was breached included first and last names, date of birth, social security numbers, driver's license, and ID information. And if you have that suite of information, you can steal somebody's identity
Right. And
with no effort, really.
right. I was gonna say in my for the hookup, I was like, if you're a T-Mobile user, make sure you change your password. But that really don't count because they already got your first and last name, date of birth, social security number, and
And
driver's
driver's
license
license
or
number.
ID information. So what are you gonna do?
It's pretty wild because honestly, I first saw this on the Shade Room.
Mhm.
And I know two of my friends use T-Mobile, and I was like, hey, y'all, you may want to put some credit freezes on your accounts because this
Right.
is a pretty big deal. And apparently, the person or persons who access this data, I don't believe it says it on this article, but on the Shade Room. So take that with a grain of salt. But they are
Okay.
correct
Here
with
we
the
go.
article. They were indicating that whoever had the data was already trying to sell it on the black market, which is not far fetched. So I think they gave, I don't know, do I still have it? Let me see if I have it on my phone
Well,
still.
they said they're going to give customers 2 years of free identity protection from services through McAfee, which again, McAfee has had their own issues.
They've been
They're
breached.
also right. They're also recommending all postpaid customers change their account pins. So most of the breach happened to postpaid customers, which I think the difference between postpaid and prepaid is prepaid people, you sign up for a contract, you load up your credit card information, they bill you monthly for your account that you're going to use that month. Postpaid people is the people who you buy minutes. That's an outdated term, but you use your
You buy
debit
a data
card.
plan and it's kind of
Right, right.
deducted from that.
Right, exactly. So that's the difference. The majority of this came from the breach came from postpaid users, but there are roughly 850 prepaid users who were also exposed. So again, I'll have to change my hookup this week from if you have T-Mobile, which I do, change your account username and password. I'm gonna change that to not just for T-Mobile, but in general, because breaches are going to happen. Just freeze your account, your credit report
Put a
accounts just
credit, yeah, put a freeze on your credit report.
and
And what
then
that does is
only
if you try and open something, there's a certain passphrase or it's certain things that you
it,
have to do extra in order
right.
to use.
When you run your credit to get a car or to get a house or apply for a loan or start a business or whatever the case may be, they're not going to let you run. They're not going to automatically give you that credit or allow you to complete that credit check until you, the owner, manually allow that particular check to run. So that's just going to have to be what it is. Just go in and freeze your accounts, and the only credit checks, the only new accounts that get opened in your name are the ones you manually approve via the credit bureaus.
Yep. It's just, and honestly, I think everybody should do that anyway, because like you mentioned, data breaches are far and wide. It could be as something as simple as you using, free internet somewhere because everybody's, oh my God, I need to be on the Wi-Fi. And you just hop on anybody's Wi-Fi. You don't know who's spoofing that information, who's tracking the traffic that's coming in and out of that network. So yeah, this is definitely something you need to make sure that you are apprised of and are taking precautionary steps to make sure that your identity isn't stolen or that, accounts aren't open in your name without your knowledge. So definitely take that to heart. If you are a T-Mobile user, if you're not a T-Mobile user, it's just something to definitely be mindful of and to make sure that you are aware of what's going on with your credit history. All right. Yeah, so I saw this article on PC Mag and I thought that it was quite interesting from the perspective that we've talked about it multiple times, especially in photo culture, how people overshare on social media. They are talking about everything. They're just, it's just like a regurgitation of whatever's going on in your mind. Let me put it on social media without even giving it a thought, especially with the younger generation who have only known the internet, who have only known Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. They don't know anything other than that. So there is this new mental health app that is trying to help Gen Z, which I think is age 16 to 24, to be a little bit more mindful of what they post on social media, particularly with this group. They are still growing mentally as well. And the fact that we have been in essential lockdown for, the last 18 months, things are slowly opening back up. But this app is called Evermore, and it's being touted as a quote emotional wellness GPS for Gen Z, again, 16 to 24. So it's using a combination of different things, including AI. It's basically allowing the users to go onto this app and instead of just, kind of throwing out whatever you want on social media, let's go through the steps on this app to find out other ways you can, what's the word I'm looking for? Other ways you can, express yourself without just putting something you may regret out in the heat of the moment. And it's basically kind of like therapy in the form of an app that's catered to this particular age group. And it's helping because, the massive amount of information that, we as adults are bombarded with every day. I think a lot of times, this Gen Z group, they are doubly bombarded with this information, from their peers, from marketers, from advertising, and then just being out, in the world anyway with their minds and their intellect not fully developed yet. So this app uses a combination of quote, voice and emotion AI, which includes voice-based reflections, audio journaling, interactive quests, and all of this is to establish what they call a baseline for how the user these 16 to 24-year-olds naturally process language. So in essence, it's trying to give you other avenues to express yourself without having to express yourself on social media.
Yeah, hopefully this is only as useful as
As
the
a
user's patience is for actually using it,
yeah,
right? From what it sounds like is this is AI and machine learning and some work on the front end for the user. The app then kind of learns who you are, kind of learns your moods,
your
it learns your
habits.
habits, it learns all of these things and does a and in the attempt to give you a better way to reach conclusions, feel good, calm you down, cool you down, give you clarity, all those things versus trying to go to social media to do that. The negative, again, like I mentioned, is social media is instant. I can instantly go on Twitter, instantly open up Instagram or whatever the case may be, and throw up all this stuff, right? And you will get immediate feedback, whether it be good, bad,
Or
whatever the case may
indifferent.
be, or
Yeah.
indifferent or off subject, which is a personal pet peeve of mine. If I am putting something online, asking a question or talking about a subject,
Don't
so
go off on a
easy
tangent
people,
in my comments.
everybody off tangent. I say, men should do more to take care of their kids, right? And here comes somebody, well, what about the women? And women, I'm like, man, I didn't say nothing about women. I
I'm not
said
talking about them.
men need to do better. If you want to talk about, do that someplace else. This is
Make
not,
your
anyway,
own post.
I digress. I didn't want to get off track. But the point I'm trying to make is this sounds like it takes some time for the app to learn you to better help you. And I just hope that people who actually need an app like this will take the time to go through the process to get the assistance.
Right.
Because, again, a problem that social media, the internet has created, not solely created, but added to, is our attention span, which is super short. So hopefully people take the time to do this. My gut feeling is, I'll just go on Twitter.
And yeah, and deal with the fallout later. It's
Right.
also important to know that this app is still it's not on in the market yet. The founder is still in the bootstrapping part of this venture, and they're relying on crowdsourcing for the app launch. And she's partnered with a couple of other different AI companies to try and keep the overhead low and to get this out to market. So I guess it's really just something to keep an eye on. And again, it's like Terrance said, it really is one of those things where you're trying to be conscious of what you put out there. And again, with this age group, it's all instant. And so, I think based on what I've seen and what she's saying in the article, that this is definitely something I could see that is going to be helpful. I think where she's going to come into some issues is getting people to consistently buy into it, to use it, so that they do get the actual benefit, and the fact that there is going to be some fee associated with it. She's looking at what, $9.95 to $15.95 based on the particular package that you choose, along with in-app purchases for extended features. So, that's another barrier as well. Twitter's free, Instagram's free, TikTok's free. So that's just something that you kind of have to keep in mind as well. With these type of things, but I think overall the idea behind it is I think it's a smart one, and I think it would definitely help especially this younger generation with how they communicate. But again, there are some hurdles that she definitely has in front of her to be able to bring this to market and to be successful. Alrighty then, that is it for second string. Let's head on over to For the Culture. We have a couple things to talk about in For the Culture. The first thing I wanted to mention, this past Friday, Lizzo released a new song and video along with Cardi B called Rumors. And Lizzo has been attacked yet again on the different platforms. And for me, it's one of those things where, you know, she got really emotional and upset and started to cry when she went on like a Instagram live. I think the live was maybe only 15 minutes. And I'm seeing now that she's done a couple of interviews with, she's done an interview with Good Morning America. She's done a couple of articles and other things talking about it. But the perspective that I want to talk about is it's all wrapped up in the guise of, you know, I just don't, it's something about her I don't like. I can't quite put my finger on it. We've heard that time and time again, but at the basis of the attacks are two things: fat phobia and racism. So it's like two sides of two different completely coins are coming together like Optimus Prime to attack Lizzo, merely because I think she is a very confident woman in her skin. Lizzo is a fat, black, dark-skinned lady, and fat is not used in a derogatory term. It's just what it is, and what she describes herself as. And it's one of those things where she makes traditionally pop music. So a lot of people I saw on Twitter, it was just kind of going back and forth. Who does she make music for? I don't really like it. And if you don't like someone's music, if you don't like the product that they're putting out, you don't have to consume it. And also, you don't have to try and use that as a way to say to attack someone physically based on physicality, because she does twerk, she does wear the short shorts, she does, you know, put it out there, and she's confident in her skin. And then of course the racism, because she is a brown skinned black woman as well. So it's just one of those things where social media just really can be a cesspool. And all she did was release a song and a video, which is her profession. And she just got relentlessly attacked, and it's still going. And she, like I said, she's doing, you know, interviews about it now. And it's just to say that if you don't like someone's music, that's fine, but that doesn't give you license to go into bully and harass them because of, you're shrouding it in, oh, I just don't like the song. Well, if you don't like the song, just say that. That's fine. Why do you have to say, I don't like the song, and she does too much twerking, or she's promoting an unhealthy lifestyle and all blah, 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 blah. It's really overwhelming, and it's a lot. And people say, well, why don't she just, you know, get off social media and it's not that big of a deal. She can just ignore people. People on social media now, if you go on social media now and say something about somebody and you get 5 comments that are negative to what you're talking about, people flip out. Just imagine millions of people just attacking you for days, just nonstop. Well, she's famous. She should be used to this. She should know this is what she signed up for. She did not sign up to be attacked and harassed because of her weight and because of her size and because of her skin color. She makes music because that's her profession and she's good at it. So it just, a lot of people have all of these things to say, and you know, they're so big and bad, and I could handle it, I could do this or that, and you could not walk a day in the mile of the shoes of a Lizzo, a Cardi B, a Rihanna, a Beyonce. The amount of hate that these women get for just literally, 1, existing, and 2, doing their job.
Right. I hope she's getting the help that she needs, because not counterpoint, but what I am noticing a lot of people do, and I kind of mentioned it before in the previous topic. What I'm seeing a lot of celebrities do is they are looking to the world for their, similar to how we do. I think celebrities also go to the world because in the one of her comments she says, I just feel like the world doesn't love me back. I hope that she doesn't think the world, and not just Lizzo, all celebrities, just people in general. Please, I want people to recognize that social media is not the world. And I hope she isn't looking to the world, i.e., social media, for praise, for upliftment, if that's even a word, for support, for, love,
But isn't that
because
what people do? She's still a person, even though she is a superstar. The
absolutely,
average
but
person still
I
actually,
also
that's what
hope
they
she's
go
getting
for.
some therapy. I hope she's
Yeah.
actually talking to somebody that can actually help her um, deal with this because it is a problem. I
Yeah.
agree 100%. It is a problem. You know, it's just, I hope she's getting the help that she needs versus um, expecting or looking for this acceptance through social media because it's not coming. It's not coming. These people are
Ever.
going to be evil. These people are going to they're
They're
looking
just
to project
hateful.
their thoughts and their feelings onto other people. And they
The
can
lack
do
of
that.
happiness in their own lives.
Right. They lack happiness in their own lives. So what they're going to do is look to somebody to be able to project that on or to make people feel just as low as they feel. And it tends not, I don't say it works. But at the same time, like I mentioned, I hope she's getting the help because this is a big issue. I wouldn't want to deal with this, this type of issues that she's dealing with,
And the
you
whole
know,
mammy thing, I was just
right,
like, y'all don't
right,
even know what mammy means.
right. They're not using it correctly. It's not
Not at
right.
all.
Um, but even still, it's like I hope she's getting the help that she needs outside of going to social media because that's not going to work. It's not people, it is impossible. You're right. It's impossible to ignore all of the hate when specifically there are probably more people that love Lizzo more than the people that hate Lizzo. But and the louder, the smaller minority of people seem the ones that get the most attention,
Kind of like what we
and
talked about earlier
right.
with the Safari fix. Was
Right.
it
And
really that many people that disliked it, or just they were loud?
right, right. But that's not gonna stop.
Nope.
I hope I hope her speaking out. Same thing with the tennis player Naomi
Naomi
Osaka,
Osaka, yeah, she's
speaking
still getting
speaking out
it.
about issues. Same
And
thing with Simone
what?
Biles.
Yeah,
Same thing with Serena Williams.
they
Same
just
thing
made
with
Naomi
all
Osaka
these
cry again earlier
right, with
this week. A
all
reporter
these
did,
people,
yeah.
it's not going to stop. So I guess my suggestion, because I don't have a here's what you need to do. Here, well, let me rephrase. I don't have a good explanation for why people do what they do because that's just who we are.
And I'm
So
not
my
a mental health professional, so I can't provide
right, right.
any
So
type of actionable items that she can
because
take
I could
to,
see this
yeah.
being a big issue, to where it messes with her, mental stability. So I hope.
Yeah, because she got off Twitter for like a year. And
Right,
she just
right.
really kind of got back on to promote this song. And this is what she kind
And
of
here we
comes
come.
back to.
So I hope for her, this is proof positive that to find what you are looking for out of life, go to a therapist, go to a psychologist, get a support group, get you a group of
Lean into
a
your people, your
circle of
tribe,
people, your tribe, right? Don't expect this from social media because it's going to let you down every time.
every
So
single time.
it's going to let you down. So, I
Yep.
just hope she's getting that versus, you know, um, waiting or expecting people from social media and the internet in general to love you because it ain't coming.
Yeah, and I think she may know that, especially since she took, the sabbatical off of Twitter. And what I think this also does, she has a huge platform. I, I was going to say bring awareness, but I think people are already quite aware of the bullying that takes place, the harassment that takes place, the fat phobia that takes place, the racism that takes place on social media apps. We've seen it time and time again. This is just another instance. We'll probably have another instance, unfortunately, next week. It's just one of those things where you can't you can't control other people. You can't use technology to solve all of the world's social ills, because there's this one factor, which is human nature, that
Right.
cannot be accounted for in tech.
Oh, you can count on it. You can count on
Accounted for meaning that you can't rely on technology to fix it. You can put all the filters you want, you can allow people to block, you can allow people to mute, but at the same time, people are going to find a way to circumvent these barriers to just
it.
be awful, awful people. Just because
Hmm.
there are just some miserable, awful people in this world, and the only way they can make themselves feel better is to go on attack someone who's talented, someone who's successful, someone who's wealthy. And that's just what their thing is. Like, you know what? I may not be able to do what you do, but I'm going to make your life miserable because I can't do it. And so there. And then again, there are just some people who are trash people.
Yep, I agree.
All right. The next thing on tap, Malice at the Palace. I haven't watched it yet, but I've seen some clips and I've seen some very interesting comments around some of the people that were interviewed,
Hmm.
talked about outside of the players. So I will let you take this
Yeah.
away.
So I am an Indiana Pacer fan. I was actually watching that game. For those who don't know, it was nicknamed Malice of the Palace. 2004, I think it was. The Pacers, Indiana Pacers and Detroit Pistons were pretty heated rivalries in the Eastern Conference. Detroit Pistons beat the Pacers the previous year to then go on and win the championship. The Pacers reloaded. They got a couple extra people. Jermaine O'Neal being this hot shot that came out of high school straight into the NBA, drafted to I want to say San Antonio, but I'm pretty sure that's not correct. But then
Google it.
Indiana picked. I'm sorry.
I just say Google it to find out
Oh, right,
who it
right.
is. Yep.
I think San Francisco. No, not San Antonio. I think. But then Indiana picked him up the year after Detroit beat him. They also brought in what is his name? Uh,
Ron Artest.
no, he was there. Um, the other guy. Oh, I can't think of it. I can see his face. Anyway, they reloaded. Got these
Steven, what's his name?
Steven Jackson. That's his
Yeah.
name. They brought in Steven Jackson from another team. This kind of edgy because Ron
Rough
Artest
and
brought in
rugged. Yeah.
right, and that edge that they needed because Detroit Pistons at the
The
time were
bad
rugged, they
boys.
were edgy. They the Indiana Pacers needed that extra kick. So they brought in these three guys. All of them in the documentary does a good job of giving you the backstory of all the individual pieces. Ron Artest, Jermaine O'Neal, Steven Jackson, even Reggie Miller to a certain extent, because he was kind of like the elder statesman that was kind of tasked with kind of getting these young cats to work together, and then that kind of leads up to this rematch with Detroit Pistons. The game goes on. Indiana's blowing them out. Towards the end of the game, Indiana would not get off of there, would not let off of them. Was still had their starters in towards the end of the game. Of course, that rubbed the Detroit Pistons the wrong way because as customary, when you're blowing a team out, you kind of put in the second and the third string and let them get their minutes. Indiana wasn't doing that. Detroit Pistons felt sort of a sort of way
Slighted.
about it. Right,
Yes.
right. Ron Artest being the tough defensive player that he is.
Meta
Uh,
world peace.
yeah, Ben Wallace on the Detroit Pistons went up for a shot. Ron Artest gave him a hard foul. Ben Wallace didn't appreciate that. They went John. They did a little scuffle back and forth. They separated the people. Ben Wallace still was kind of jawing at him. Actually, threw some of his armbands and his headbands in the direction of the Pacers and Ron Artest. According to the documentary, according to people who were in the area, they said the fans who were already drunk, who were uh,
Already rowdy.
already rowdy,
Pissed they were being blown out.
pissed they were being blown out, were kind of trickling down into the expensive seats because since they were getting blown out, the season ticket holders, the regular people
Left.
to sit down there, had already left. So the people were trickling down, they're getting blown out, they're drunk. You add fuel to the fire of the Detroit Pistons actually throwing things in their direction. One of the people in the stands threw a cup, hit Ron Artest, who had cooled down. He's laying on the scores table, which that was another thing to people kind of got antsy about. How dare he lay on the table when he was really the one like, all right, let me cool back, let me chill out. Threw the cup on him. He jumps into the stands, chaos, right? So the documentary does a good job of painting the picture of all the things that led up to that altercation, because the way the media portrayed the actual confrontation,
Thugs.
they blamed the players. The video that we saw on a loop through ESPN, all the news, they show the instance to where Ron Artest gets up, jumps into the stands. They don't do any extra due diligence to paint a picture. Again, the media, again, hungry for a story, like Nica mentioned, blame the players, called the players thugs, said this hip hop generation is kind of rubbing off onto these NBA players. They don't have any class. They don't know how to act as millionaires. Oh, they want people
All the
to
dog
make,
whistles.
yeah, all the dog whistles wanted to, their babies. They want to be treated special. They need to stand up for themselves, millionaires. So as a result of all that negative energy and all that press, mind you, nobody really pointed the picture at, oh, we need to find these people
Who
these
actually
fans
started all of this?
started all this. The NBA comes down, puts these tough penalties on Ron Artest, give him a year suspension. They give Jermaine O'Neal and Steven Jackson, who again were just defending their players, because you think about it, 12 to 15 players against 20, 30,000 people,
In a
you know,
hostile environment.
in a hostile environment, right? So they levy all these punishments again to
Nothing for the crowd, though.
appease.
Yeah.
What you say?
I said nothing for the crowd. They don't put any
Right,
type of
to appease
restrictions
the
on
fans,
fans.
because the NBA is a money making organization,
And it's a black organization.
and who gives out the money? The fans. So at the time, David Stern, who in my opinion was one of the worst NBA
Worst.
commissioners, but that's a whole nother story. Levied these stiff punishments, and then the documentary again, like I said, it's a good watch, is because they do a good job of painting the picture, giving you the whole story as to all of these players, individual, um, their individuality at the time, and how that kind of all built up together. Ron Artest, who is now Meta World Peace, he talked about his mental issues, which back in 2004, wasn't nobody talking about mental health. Wasn't nobody
Especially not
talking
around
about,
black people.
especially around black people, especially not
And
around
rich black men?
billionaires.
Yeah.
Right. So the documentary does a good job of painting that picture. The documentary also does a good job of giving you the whole story of what happened after that, specifically with the fans. They had the nerve
Did
to
they have the
have
dude on there?
fans. What you say?
Did they have the dude on there that threw the cup?
Yes, they
Okay.
interviewed. They didn't interview him. The documentary brought up unreleased footage of interviews with him, right? Because at the time, nobody wanted to do any work to find out who this guy was. The documentary found the people and found these, unreleased interviews of him. They also had the nerve to bring the guy down. There was another guy, and I don't know if you remember the actual instance, the altercation, but after the guy in the stands threw the cup on Ron Artest and all that stuff, they cooled everybody down. Some of the fans came down out of the stands onto the court and confronted some of these players. So they had the nerve to bring one of the fans down, and his thing was, again, how dare they attack the fans? And I was just a
Still?
person. Yeah, still to this day, fast forward to the
Wow.
making of this documentary, he's still being interviewed by these people, still from the standpoint of, these players, they should be the ones who are the bigger man. And I can't believe that the Pistons organization, let their fans down, just crap. But
They really do think they own these players.
right,
They really do think they own them.
exactly, and that was kind of the sentiment that people kind of got, and especially again with like you said, with the dog whistles. And then fast forward to, you look at that, and then you fast forward that to the recent altercations
At
where
the Chargers game?
fans, we say,
At the Chargers game?
not just that, just NBA.
Okay.
Russell
Okay.
Westbrook, I
The
want to say
popcorn.
Kyrie Irving. Yeah, a couple of these players. I think somebody in Boston. I can't think of who it was, but these players. Fast forward to today, Utah Jazz fans.
Oh,
They
LeBron
felt
in Atlanta with the
right,
chick
right,
and the dude.
exactly. People, fat, and then so it just shows how and then another thing I mentioned, how the public thoughts and the public idea about how NBA players should act and behave and dress. I don't know how this came about, this altercation, but then shortly after that, the NBA instituted the dress code because, according to the public sentiment, hip hop ideas and values are starting to leak into the NBA.
Headbands, baggy
And
shirts, jerseys, dread
the
cornrows.
yeah, the cornrows and the tattoos and the jerseys and the chains. So they instituted
But
dress
who's
policy,
all
like,
wearing that now?
again, respectability politics.
Definitely.
If you look better and you look the part, then you'll behave better, right?
And
So
you'll be treated better, which we all
you'll be
know is not
treated
true.
better. When again, fast forward to today, you still got fans feeling like they own these players and these fanatics. That's probably one of the reasons why I'm not as of a fanatic as I probably normally would be, is because I subconsciously rebel against people who are that diehard of fans. Like, I'll go to the barbershop and you'll listen to the guys talk about their team, right? And they'll argue about the stats, and they'll, well, what we gonna do this year? You better watch out. I'm like, man, you cut hair. You are not on.
You are not on the team. You didn't even play varsity in high school, bro. So
Right,
chill.
right. But it's we, ours, mine, and so I digress. But again, I think it really does a good job of showing you how people, fans in particular, how carried away, and how they make decisions, do things, say things, and really don't stop to realize the humanity behind some of these players. The same way, like you said with Lizzo, how these social media people on social media, they really don't see a human behind the celebrity. They just see a person that they can,
They see merchandise,
right. They see property, they see merchandise. They
property,
don't see a human,
bodies.
which
Yeah.
will allow them to say these things to her when they wouldn't say that to anybody else that they know personally.
And a lot
So
of times, the same things they're saying about, her or any of these other players, especially as it relates to the physicality of it, a lot of times they're in the same boat.
right,
But
right.
they feel that
She's
these
different.
celebrities, are special cases that
Right,
they are allowed to say these
right,
things about
right.
these folks.
Yeah, so definitely watch it. Again, you
Yeah,
kind of
it's
talk
definitely on
about
the queue.
yeah, they talk about, how, as a result of that, there was missed opportunities. Like I mentioned, I'm a big Pacers fan, and everybody just knew that the Pacers, once they reloaded, Reggie Miller at the time of the incident was injured, but he was going to come back and they were going to contend for the championship. And as a result of these suspensions that came down, that window for them to win the championship kind of evaporated. Jermaine O'Neal never kind of, you can tell he still kind of regrets all of that stuff that happened. He never really got his career back. Reggie Miller ended up retiring, never
Mm-hmm.
had to have won a championship, and it kind of talks about how Ron Artest now
And the ringer they put Ron Artest through. I mean,
right.
gee
Luckily he was
whiz.
able to come out on the other side of it. He talked about, just him seeing his therapist, him wanting peace, which is kind of why he changed his name to Meta World Peace. They kind of explained the meaning behind that. He was able to go on and actually win a championship, and he expressed regret because he said, back then I did not know how to manage my anger, and one of the ways I did it was to run away. So after that suspension, he asked to be traded from the Indiana Pacers. And like I said, Steven Jackson, Jermaine O'Neal, they were kind of angry at him for saying, look, man, we know you didn't start this thing, but you were kind of like the launch pad for this whole thing to happen. We backed you up, put our
Mm-hmm.
own selves, put our own lives, put our own careers on the line, and then you leave. So
Bold,
they,
yeah.
they kind of talked about that. So it was a real good documentary about, something that happened that in my lifetime that I can remember, and then
Mm-hmm.
actually having to go back and kind of see all the different angles and things. I was like, that's right. I mean, I was watching it and I was tense actually watching it because you knew it was going to happen,
Mm-hmm.
but you was like, come on, man, just don't, come on.
Don't light the fire to send the rocket
Right,
off. Just
right.
don't light it. And
It
then what
was
happens?
somebody living through it. It was very, very tense moments
Yeah.
specifically. So I think,
Yeah.
but again, that's the whole point. If they can get you tense like that, then they've done their job. So
Yep.
definitely a good thing to watch.
Yep. All right. Let's head on over to the hookup. I think you had something related to T-Mobile.
Right. We already talked about it earlier. Change your passwords if you can. Add two-factor authentication if you can. Again, that's not going to reverse the fact that some of your data may have gotten leaked to people. If you want to take this step further, go freeze your accounts. And this goes for anybody nowadays because, like Nica mentioned, leaks and data breaches and leaked information, it's pretty much here to stay. So the best way you can protect yourself specifically from identity theft, credit fraud, is to freeze your credit reports. And when you have to apply for credit for a house, for a mortgage loan, for a car, whatever the case may be, know that you're going to get flagged and you're going to have to go through those extra
Put some
steps
extra steps, extra
to
work.
approve those checks. But that means that nobody else can just randomly do it either.
Yep. Correct. All right. That is it for this week. Definitely download, rate, and review us. We're on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify. You can definitely engage with us on social media. We're at Twitter. We're on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. We're at SnobWestCast everywhere. You can also watch us on our YouTube channel, which is at SnobWestCast. Definitely make sure to like and subscribe our channel. That definitely helps us in the metrics. Also, feel free to leave us any comments or suggestions on our website at snobblewestcast.com. You can email us at snobblewestcast@gmail.com. Also, if you want to help us and support the show financially, you can do that in two ways. You can become a patron of the show by going to patreon.com/snobwestcast and sign up for a monthly subscription. And with that $5 per month, you get access to our pre-show content, access to our live show taping, and access to our chat community. Also, you can give us a one-time love offering via PayPal at paypal.me/snobawest. Definitely want to shout out one of our listeners, a friend of mine, Tina, for sending us over a one-time love offering. We definitely appreciate it, and we will definitely put that to use.
Yep,
And with that,
it'll go to the building fund.
all right, and that's it for this week. Thanks, everybody. We'll talk to you later.
Peace.
Bye.